More than 14 centuries ago, on a vast plain beneath the open sky, a voice rose that did not seek power, conquest, or remembrance. It sought conscience. It spoke not to one tribe, one people, or one generation, but to humanity itself. That voice belonged to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the words he delivered in those final days of his life continue to echo across time. This was not a moment of triumph measured in territory or wealth. It was a moment of moral completion. The Prophet, peace be upon him, stood before a gathering unlike any the Arabian Peninsula had witnessed before. Tens of thousands had assembled, united by faith but diverse in background, color, and lineage. Many sensed that this was not an ordinary address. The Prophet, peace be upon him, himself made it clear that he might not stand among them again. What followed was not a farewell of sorrow, but a final offering of guidance, distilled, deliberate, and timeless. The world into which these words were spoken was defined by hierarchy and division. Lineage dictated worth, tribe determined loyalty, strength often overruled justice. Cycles of violence passed from one generation to the next, justified by honor and revenge. In such a world, the Prophet, peace be upon him's message did not merely challenge norms, it overturned them. He began by reminding humanity of a truth so simple it had been forgotten. All people share a single origin. No race, no color, no tribe holds inherent superiority over another. Human value does not flow from ancestry or status, but from moral conduct and responsibility. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not speak in abstraction. He grounded equality in accountability. Every human being, regardless of position, stands equally answerable for their actions. This principle stripped power of its moral immunity. It declared that authority does not excuse injustice, it magnifies its consequences. From equality, the message moved to dignity. Human life, property, and honor were declared sacred. Not conditionally sacred, not selectively sacred, absolutely sacred. To harm another person was not merely a social offense, but a moral violation. In this single principle lay the foundation of what modern societies now call human rights, articulated centuries before legal charters and conventions. But dignity, the Prophet, peace be upon him, reminded, is not protected only by preventing physical harm. It is preserved through words, intentions, and conduct. Slander, humiliation, and exploitation are also forms of violence. Justice stood at the heart of the final message. Not justice as a slogan, but justice as a lived obligation. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned against oppression in all its forms, whether committed openly or disguised as tradition, whether practiced by individuals or institutions. He made it clear that injustice does not disappear simply because it is normalized. Moral accountability, he taught, extends beyond human courts. This insistence on justice was deeply unsettling to systems built on dominance. It declared that fairness is not owed only to one's own people, but to all. That moral responsibility does not end at tribal or ideological borders. In this, the Prophet, peace be upon him, articulated a universal ethic that refuses to divide humanity into deserving and undeserving lives. Economic conduct was not excluded from this moral vision. The Prophet, peace be upon him, addressed exploitation directly, abolishing practices that enriched the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. Wealth, in his message, was not condemned, but detached from greed. It was defined as a trust, accompanied by responsibility and restraint. He dismantled inherited grievances, ending cycles of collective punishment and revenge. No child would bear the burden of an ancestor's crime. No tribe would be condemned for the actions of one. Justice, he declared, must be individual, not inherited. In doing so, he replaced tribal retaliation with moral accountability. The message also turned towards the home, towards relationships often ignored by public reform. The Prophet, peace be upon him, spoke of women not as possessions, but as individuals entrusted with dignity and rights. He reminded men that authority within marriage is not domination, but responsibility. That kindness is not optional and fairness is not a favor. At a time when women were denied autonomy and security, this was not symbolic language. It was instruction. It placed the treatment of women within the sphere of moral accountability, making it a measure of ethical integrity. While history would see this principle applied unevenly, the standard itself was unambiguous. Beyond laws and directives, the Prophet, peace be upon him, emphasized character. Trusts were to be honored, promises kept. Moral shortcuts were rejected, even when convenient. He, peace be upon him, made it clear that societies do not decay overnight. They erode when integrity becomes negotiable. Perhaps most striking was what the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not do. He did not appoint successors. He did not centralize authority. He did not create dependency. Instead, he entrusted humanity with responsibility. He pointed towards enduring moral guidance and reminded his listeners that ethical consciousness, not blind obedience, would keep them from losing their way. As the address drew to a close, the Prophet, peace be upon him, asked a question, not rhetorical, but profound. Had he delivered the message? The response echoed back in affirmation. He then placed the responsibility of transmission upon those present. Moral knowledge, he reminded them, carries obligation. To know is not enough. One must convey, embody, and protect. In that moment, the message ceased to belong solely to the Prophet. It became a trust passed to humanity. What makes this final address extraordinary is not only its historical significance, but its universality. Though delivered within a religious framework, its principles transcend faith. Equality, justice, dignity, compassion, and accountability are not confined to belief systems. They are human values, essential to coexistence. This universality explains why the message continues to resonate in global discussions on ethics and leadership. It does not demand uniformity of belief, but shared moral ground. In a fractured world, it offers unity without erasure, diversity without hierarchy. As the sermon drew to its close, a profound stillness settled over the plain. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, lifted his face towards the heavens, his peace be upon him, voice carrying both humility and finality, and declared, "O Allah, bear witness that I have conveyed your message to your people." It was a moment heavy with meaning. The completion of a trust, the fulfillment of a divine mission. It was then that one of the final and most significant verses of the Quran was revealed, sealing the message not only for those present, but for all generations to come. The verse proclaimed the completion of faith and divine guidance, marking the culmination of revelation and responsibility.
اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا.
Quran, chapter 5, verse 3. This day I have perfected for you your religion, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your way of life. In that moment, revelation and responsibility met. The message was complete, and humanity was entrusted with carrying it forward. And so, as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, departed from the plain of Arafat, he left behind no monument of stone, no empire defined by borders, but a legacy rooted in conscience. The Prophet's final words were not an ending, they were a beginning, a moral horizon placed before humanity. They invite each generation to choose whether it will inherit the message merely as history or carry it forward as principle. In listening to these words today, humanity is not being asked to look back. It is being asked to look inward. And in that reflection lies the possibility of a world shaped not by superiority or fear, but by shared dignity, moral courage, and accountability, the very foundations of the Prophet, peace be upon him's final message to humanity.